I took a little vacation with my son and his family, and we went to Sequoia National Forest. The picture here is of Morro Rock, which would be close to where we would stay. And we climbed that rock, but it was easy. There were steps all the way up. The forest was so beautiful, and the trees so tall. It was just real restful and peaceful to be in that area and looking at the trees every day and hugging the trees a little bit, climbing inside of them, and on top of them, the ones that were falling down, that had fallen down. Anyway, I really had a good time taking pictures of these big trees. So many of them have been burned, but they resist fire. Fire doesn't destroy them. And they have lived thousands of years. Anyway, this is my granddaughter inside of one of the trees. And it was just a very wonderful time to go up there. They say there's bears, black bears, but you couldn't prove it by us because we didn't see one. We looked. We thought we saw the tail of one headed off down a mountain, but they're really very, very shy. They really don't have to worry about them. This is a picture of a meadow here. You weren't supposed to walk out there because all kinds of wildlife and insects and creatures were under the turf, and you could step on them without even knowing you were doing that. There were beautiful little flowers everywhere and beautiful rocks. It was just magnificent being there. I was just going around with my camera snapping a picture of everything. This is a little bit more of the meadow. You could just look over into it. And this is on top of a tree that had fallen down near the road. And this is going under a tree. And this is my son and his wife and my two grandkids. They wanted their picture going under that tree, but there was a line of cars all wanting the very same thing, so we had to wait our turn. Anyway, it was really fun. We wanted to go up on Morro Rock, but we went early in the morning because the evening before, when we were contemplating going on it, the cars of people lined up to go up this little trail, which you see right there, were so bad they filled the parking lot and the street all the way up around for a long way, so there must have been 1 million people on this little set of stairs. So we said, oh, let's just go in the morning. Good thing we did. We didn't have one other person climbing that rock with us until we were going down, and we met one man coming up as we were going down. And I've taken a series of pictures as we go up this little set of steps. You can see so much of the mountain all around. See, the trail is just little steps. Really easy for a 63-year-old woman to climb. I wondered if I were going to make it though, because I was breathing pretty heavy by the time I got to the top. I could hear my heart beat. I thought perhaps my camera with the video on it would record my heart beating because it was beating so loud. But you could look out across all the places that you had just come up from, and all the trees and the sun just coming up real good. It was just beautiful. I like this picture here. It's pretty with the sun behind that rock. And there we think we're getting near the top here. But this rock could fool you. It had a lot of twists and turns. That's just a little of the stairway. And they said, oh, come on, Grandma, you can make it. It's just a little further. So I would trudge up these steps that just went forever up. I think 1/4 of a mile of steps going up here. There, I looked back down upon the steps I'd come up. And sometimes you had to lean over because right here you see the rock kind of gets in your way of walking. And you can look down just a sheer drop of rock and think how wonderful it is to have steps leading you up this. Otherwise you would never see the view from there. Mary Ellen got ahead of me, so I took a picture of her up ahead on the trail. Then I looked down and took a picture of the tops of those tall trees. Right here I thought I was at the top, but there was a little more to go. But now, this is from the top this picture is taken. You can look out and see for miles. It's just really beautiful up there. But I would suggest to anyone who goes up on Morro Rock that you go in the early morning before the crowd gets there. Because for one thing, the aisles were so narrow that the ones coming down and the ones going up would probably have to be waiting on each other just constantly. Of course, that gives people a time to breathe, because it really exhausts you to climb straight up for a long time. I was afraid I couldn't do it, but I was real proud of myself because I did. And I said, wow. Wow, because I really wasn't sure if I could make that climb. Here's a sign that warned about what to do in case of lightning, and if you're up there, to avoid being struck. And there we are, getting on the trail of going back down the rock. And you have to be just as careful going down, maybe more so, because you could fall when you go down all these little steps. I love to take pictures of little nooks and crannies where there's little rocks and flowers growing in them. Looking down on the top of the tall trees. And then we also went off the trail on one of the trails just to get off the beaten track. We didn't get very far off, and we saw a deer, and it wouldn't even move. It was just aware of us, I'm sure, because we got so close to it, but it didn't even move. Well, it moved around a little bit, changing positions, but it didn't run from that spot. These trees are so big, it's hard to appreciate how big they are unless you see someone in the picture with the tree to show the size of the person compared to the tree. This is a tree that's 3 trees in one. I kept going up it with my camera to show the base of it at first, and then how that it branched off into 3 different trees, but it shared the same trunk. At one point we just got out of the car and laid down under the big trees and looked up at them. And my little granddaughter, Anna Kate, was afraid to get out of the car. She was afraid there'd be some bears out there. So I got the rest of her family laying under a tree, but not Anna Kate. She's in the car at this point. But she did finally get over being afraid of bears. This is taken by me inside of a tree, looking up. I'm inside of maybe 2 or 3 trees merged together there. And this is looking out from inside that tree. And then this is looking up from inside that tree once again. This picture shows you a little bit about how big the trees are compared to the people. We're just like little ants to those trees. It's very interesting up there in Sequoia National Forest. I went there as a really young person, and I remember the big trees, but it wasn't as exciting as it was this time, because now I knew what I was looking at. There's that deer. See just his tail right there. Now you can see his head. And I thought, how close could I get to him? And finally I thought, well, I don't want to just walk up to where he is and disturb him. He'd probably say, those darn tourists, they're always stomping over me. Or something like that. Anyway, there were a lot of little rivers